Arrival and observation. In the vast expanse of the cosmos, where stars flickered like distant campfires in the dark, a solitary vessel glided through the void. This was the sleek scout ship of Lieutenant Zintar, a proud member of the Galactic Federation, a civilization that thrived on the exploration of the universe and the study of its myriad inhabitants. Today, Zintar's destination was Earth, a small, vibrant planet that had recently caught the attention of the Federation's High Council. Their fascination with humans had grown particularly intense, especially concerning their intriguing pre-battle rituals. As Zinthar piloted his craft, the shimmering blue and green orb gradually filled the viewport, revealing a world teeming with life. The colors of Earth contrasted sharply with the barren, metallic landscapes of Ven, his home planet, where a perpetual twilight enveloped everything in a cold embrace. Zinthar's heart raced with anticipation. He had heard tales of Earth's inhabitants and their complex emotional lives, a stark departure from the sterile existence of his own kind. Descending through the atmosphere, Zinthar marveled at the beauty of Earth's surface. He spotted sprawling forests, vast oceans, and the intricate patterns of human settlements that dotted the landscape. The sight filled him with a sense of wonder that was both exhilarating and unsettling. What secrets lay within this vibrant world? What lessons could be learned from these creatures who thrived in such emotional chaos? Zinthar maneuvered his ship towards a remote forest clearing near a bustling military base. He had chosen this location intentionally. The activity and organization of the military would provide a rich tapestry of human behavior to observe. The ship landed silently, cloaked from the prying eyes of the soldiers below. As he exited the craft, he activated his observation equipment, eager to document the events that would unfold. From his hidden vantage point, Zinthar watched as soldiers moved with purpose and precision. They were a diverse group, different ages, backgrounds, and ethnicities, but all united by their uniforms and a shared sense of duty. The first ritual he observed was a morning assembly, where hundreds of soldiers stood in perfect formation. A commanding officer stood atop a raised platform, delivering a speech that echoed across the base. Though Zinthar couldn't understand the words, he could feel the authority and inspiration in the officer's voice, the way it resonated with the crowd, igniting a spark of determination in their hearts. Following the assembly, Zinthar observed smaller groups breaking off to engage in various training exercises. Some practiced hand-to-hand combat, their movements precise and disciplined. Others ran through obstacle courses, showcasing their agility and stamina, qualities that impressed even an advanced being like Zinthar. He noted the camaraderie among the soldiers, how they shouted encouragements to one another, their voices rising and falling like a chorus, blending into a symphony of human resilience. The days turned into weeks, and Zinthar became increasingly absorbed in his observations. Each ritual unfolded like a chapter in a rich narrative, revealing the intricacies of human emotion and connection. One evening, curiosity drew him to follow a group of soldiers as they ventured away from the base. They gathered around a bonfire, its warm glow casting long shadows against the backdrop of the darkening forest. As they shared stories, their voices rose and fell with emotion, laughter punctuating the air before silence enveloped them, lost in their thoughts. Zinthar felt an unfamiliar weight to their words, a profound bond forged through shared experiences. He recorded every moment, aware that these interactions held the key to understanding the human spirit. The following day brought another ritual that captivated him. Soldiers stood in front of a large banner adorned with symbols and colors of deep significance. They sang in unison, their voices intertwining to create a hauntingly beautiful melody filled with pride and longing. Zinthar felt a stirring within him, a resonance he could not quite comprehend. As the weeks passed, Zinthar's initial detachment began to fade. He found himself reflecting on the human condition, the intricate web of emotions that defined their existence. The rituals he observed were more than mere preparations for battle. They were expressions of their innermost fears, hopes, and connections. A particularly striking moment occurred during physical training, known as PT among the soldiers. They pushed their bodies to the limit, running long distances and lifting weights, their faces etched with determination. Zinfa marveled at their endurance, but even more so at the way they supported one another. When one soldier faltered, another would rush in to offer a helping hand, shouting words of encouragement. This display of camaraderie was not just about physical strength, it reinforced the bonds of trust and solidarity essential for combat. Zinthar could not help but feel a growing admiration for these beings who, despite their vulnerabilities, displayed such fierce determination and resilience. As he continued to observe, Zinthar witnessed a variety of rituals that further illuminated the human experience. In the evenings, small groups gathered for strategy sessions, huddled around maps and models, discussing tactics with intense focus. The atmosphere buzzed with collaboration, where every soldier's input was valued. Decisions were made collectively, a stark contrast to the rigid hierarchies of his own culture. Zinthar noted how this approach fostered a sense of ownership and accountability among the soldiers, creating a united front that would serve them well in the challenges ahead. One evening, Zinthar stumbled upon a deeply emotional ceremony that struck a chord within him. A group of soldiers had formed a circle, holding flickering candles that illuminated their faces in the twilight. They spoke in hushed tones, their voices heavy with grief as they honored fallen comrades. Each soldier shared a story of bravery or kindness, placing a candle on a makeshift altar as a tribute. Zinthar felt an unfamiliar sensation welling within him, empathy for these humans and their profound sense of loss. In observing these rituals, Zinthar encountered the spiritual side of humanity as well. Soldiers of various faiths gathered in small groups to pray, meditate, or perform religious rites. Some knelt in reverence, heads bowed, while others engaged in rhythmic chants, their voices harmonizing in a serene melody. Zinthar, who had always regarded spirituality as a primitive concept, began to recognize its value. It provided the soldiers with a sense of peace and purpose, connecting them to something greater than themselves. As his mission progressed, Zinthar's emotional landscape shifted. The intensity of human feelings, their capacity for both fierce determination and deep vulnerability, began to resonate within him. Each day spent among these remarkable beings deepened his understanding of their existence. The rituals, the camaraderie, the shared grief, they were all windows into the heart of humanity. And as he documented their experiences, Zinthar realized that he was not merely an observer. He was becoming part of their story, drawn into a world that challenged everything he had known about emotion and connection. Little did Zinthar know that the observations he made would not only change his understanding of humanity, but also alter the course of his own journey. The human experience, with its rich tapestry of emotions and relationships, was a lesson in resilience and courage that would echo throughout the universe. As he continued to recall the unfolding narrative of these extraordinary beings, Zinthar found himself standing on the precipice of transformation, ready to embrace the profound truths hidden within the rituals of humankind. The bonds of brotherhood. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Lieutenant Zinthar found himself captivated by the rhythms of human life unfolding before him. Each day brought new rituals that revealed the depth of emotion and connection among the soldiers. The camp was alive with anticipation, as an impending conflict loomed on the horizon. Yet, within that tension, Zinthar discovered a remarkable resilience, a strength forged in the fires of camaraderie. One morning, Zinthar awoke to the sounds of laughter and shouting that echoed through the trees. He activated his observation equipment, eager to uncover the source of the commotion. He soon realized that the soldiers were engaged in a traditional game, a blend of strategy and physical prowess. It was called Capture the Flag, a beloved pastime that not only served to sharpen their skills, but also reinforced their bonds of brotherhood. Zinthar watched as the soldiers split into two teams, their faces alight with excitement and competitive spirit. They darted through the trees, navigating obstacles with agility that was both impressive and graceful. Zinthar noted how they communicated effortlessly, strategizing on the fly and adapting to each other's movements. It was a dance of trust and cooperation that transcended words, a profound expression of their unity. In that moment, Zinfa was struck by the realization that this was not merely a game, it was a rehearsal for the battles that lay ahead, a way to prepare both body and mind. As the game unfolded, Zinfa noted the importance of laughter amidst the tension. The soldiers cheered for their teammates, celebrated victories, and consoled one another in defeat. Their emotions were raw and unfiltered, a beautiful tapestry of joy, frustration, and encouragement. He found himself wishing he could join them, to experience the exhilaration of the chase and the triumph of teamwork. The camaraderie on display was something he had never witnessed among his own people, a stark contrast to the isolated existence of the Venites, where emotions were often suppressed and individuality reigned supreme. That evening, as twilight descended, the soldiers gathered once more around the bonfire. Zinfa, cloaked in the shadows, listened intently as they shared tales of heroism and sacrifice. One soldier, a young woman named Riley, recounted her experience during a previous mission, where she had saved a fellow soldier from an ambush. Her voice trembled with the weight of memory, but the pride in her eyes shone brightly. The other soldiers hung on her every word, their expressions a mix of admiration and gratitude. Zinfa was profoundly moved by the depth of their connections. Here were warriors who faced the specter of death daily, yet they found solace and strength in each other's stories. The ritual of storytelling not only honored the past, but also fortified their resolve for the future. Zinfa documented every nuance of their interactions, the way they leaned in closer, the way their laughter echoed through the night, creating a sense of belonging that transcended the harsh realities of their existence. The following days brought more rituals, each revealing a facet of humanity that Zinfa had not anticipated. One morning, he observed a group of soldiers gathered in a clearing, their faces solemn as they engaged in a practice known as Circle of Trust. They formed a circle, holding hands as they closed their eyes and shared their vulnerabilities. One soldier spoke of his fear of failure, another of the anxiety that plagued him before battles. Zinfa watched in awe as they offered words of support and encouragement, their voices a soothing balm to each other's insecurities. This ritual struck a chord within Zinfa. He had been trained to remain detached, to observe without emotion. Yet, as he watched these soldiers lay bare their souls, he felt an unfamiliar stirring within him, a desire to connect, to share in their experiences. The idea of vulnerability was foreign to him. In Ven, such displays were viewed as weaknesses. But here, among these humans, it was a strength, a means of forging deeper bonds. One evening, Zinfa's attention was drawn to a different kind of gathering. The soldiers formed small groups to write letters to their families back home. Each soldier sat quietly, pen in hand, pouring their thoughts onto paper. Some smiled as they wrote, while others wiped away tears, their emotions laid bare on the page. Zinfa observed the profound love and longing that permeated the air. It was a stark reminder of what they were fighting for, a chance to return to their loved ones, to create a future filled with hope and happiness. In his own heart, Zinfa felt a pang of longing for the connections he had left behind. His life on Ven had been one of duty and detachment, but here, the soldiers showed him that vulnerability and love were the true sources of strength. It was a lesson he was beginning to understand, one that challenged everything he had been taught. As Zinfa continued to immerse himself in the rituals, he grew increasingly aware of the transformations taking place within him. The emotions he witnessed among the soldiers began to resonate deeply, stirring feelings he had long buried. The laughter, the tears, the stories, they all contributed to a rich tapestry of human experience that was both exhilarating and terrifying. He found himself questioning his own beliefs and the rigid constructs of his upbringing. One night, Zinfa witnessed a ceremony that left an indelible mark on him. It was the night before a significant battle, and the soldiers gathered to honor their fallen comrades. They lit candles, placing them in a circle to create a halo of light in the darkness. Each soldier took a moment to share a memory or a lesson learned from those who had sacrificed their lives for their cause. Zinfa listened intently as their voices wove together in a poignant tribute. The weight of grief hung heavy in the air, but it was interspersed with stories of courage and resilience. He could feel the intensity of their emotions, a palpable force that enveloped him. For the first time, he allowed himself to feel the ache of loss, the profound impact of the connections that had been forged and broken. The vulnerability he had once shunned now felt like a gift, a way to honor those who had come before and to strengthen the bonds among the living. As the night wore on, Zinthar's mind raced with thoughts and feelings he had never allowed himself to explore. The rituals, the camaraderie, and the unwavering spirit of these humans began to reshape his understanding of strength. He realized that true resilience did not lie in the absence of emotion, but rather in the ability to embrace it fully. The soldiers were not just warriors. They were individuals connected by shared experiences, fears, and hopes. They fought not only for victory but also for each other, a testament to the power of human connection. By the time dawn broke, Zinthar had experienced a transformation that would change him forever. The lessons learned from the humans he observed began to seep into his consciousness, challenging him to reconsider his own existence. In their vulnerability, he discovered a strength he had never known. In their stories, he found a reflection of his own journey, a journey that was far from over. As Zinthar prepared to continue his observations, he understood that he was no longer just a spectator in this world. He was part of a narrative that transcended species and cultures, one that explored the very essence of what it meant to be alive. With each passing day, he grew more invested in their struggles and victories, ready to embrace the complexity of emotions that defined humanity. Little did he know, the true test of his newfound understanding was yet to come, and it would require him to confront not only the darkness outside, but also the shadows within himself. The calm before the storm. As the days turned into a week, the military base buzzed with a palpable tension. The soldiers were aware that the time for battle was drawing near, and their routines shifted slightly to accommodate the mounting pressure. Zinthar, cloaked in his invisibility, continued his observations, documenting every ritual, every shared moment, and every flicker of emotion. But this time, he felt the weight of their anxiety in the air, a heavy cloud looming over the camp as they prepared for the unknown. The impending conflict had begun to alter the atmosphere within the barracks. Gone were the carefree laughter and playful banter of the capture-the-flag games. Instead, a somber resolve replaced it. Zinthar noticed how the soldiers' faces reflected the weight of their duties. Eyes that once sparkled with life now held a steely determination that spoke of the sacrifices they were prepared to make. The camaraderie that had flourished in the days prior morphed into something deeper, an unspoken understanding that they were on the brink of something monumental. One evening, Zinthar observed a particularly intense gathering around the bonfire. The flames flickered high, casting long shadows across the faces of the soldiers as they prepared for a final briefing before the battle. A commanding officer stood in the center, his voice steady but laced with emotion as he addressed the troops. "We fight not just for ourselves, but for each other. Remember, when you stand shoulder to shoulder with your brothers and sisters, you are never alone." As Zinthar listened, he noted the way the soldiers nodded in agreement, their faces a tapestry of resolve and fear. It was a reminder of the bond that had been forged over the weeks of preparation. The officer's words resonated deeply with Zinthar, who had come to understand the strength that lay in unity. In that moment, he realized that the humans were not just fighting for a cause. They were fighting for each other, their lives intertwined in a way that transcended the battlefield. The next day, the base was a flurry of activity as final preparations were made. Soldiers meticulously checked their gear, ensuring that every piece of equipment was in top condition. Zinthar observed their actions with keen interest, noticing how they fell into a rhythm, working together seamlessly to prepare for the fight ahead. They moved with purpose, their faces set in expressions of determination. Yet there were moments when Zinthar could see the flicker of uncertainty in their eyes. In the midst of this tension, Zinthar discovered another aspect of human ritual, the practice of sharing hopes and fears. One afternoon, he followed a group of soldiers to a secluded area where they had set up a small circle. Here, They took turns sharing their thoughts, a practice they called vulnerability hour. It was a sacred time where they could voice their anxieties and hopes, an opportunity to connect on a deeper level before they faced the unknown. As the first soldier spoke, Zinfo watched as he revealed his fear of failure. "What if I can't protect my team?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. The others listened intently, nodding in understanding. Another soldier chimed in, sharing her fear of losing someone she had grown close to during their time together. "I can't imagine facing the battle without you guys," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Zinthar felt a surge of emotions he had never experienced before. The raw honesty of their fears was a testament to their strength, and he marveled at how sharing vulnerability made them stronger, more united. In that moment, he wished he could join them, to share his own fears and learn from their experiences. But he remained an observer, cloaked in shadows, struggling with the yearning to connect. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the camp, the soldiers gathered once more around the bonfire. This time, the mood was heavier, tinged with an urgency that permeated their conversations. They spoke of the battle to come, strategizing and reinforcing their plans. Zinfo could feel the intensity rising, a shared anticipation that crackled in the air like static electricity. In the heart of the circle, the commanding officer spoke again, reminding them of the importance of trust. "We are a team, and together we are stronger than any enemy we may face. Trust in your training, trust in each other, and trust that we will come through this together." The soldiers listened intently, their expressions a mixture of determination and fear, each drawing strength from the other's presence. As night descended, Zinfal noticed a change in the soldiers' demeanor. The laughter that had once filled the air was now replaced with quiet contemplation. Many of them sought solitude, finding peace in the stillness of the forest. Zinfo watched as they took moments to themselves, perhaps writing letters to loved ones or reflecting on their journeys. In this silence, he sensed the weight of their commitment, a pledge to face whatever awaited them with courage. That night, Zinfar's thoughts swirled as he contemplated the nature of conflict and the weight of duty. He found himself grappling with the realization that his mission had transformed from mere observation to something much deeper. The soldiers had become more than subjects of study, they had become a part of him. Their hopes and fears echoed in his mind, challenging him to confront his own beliefs about duty and connection. In the early hours before dawn, Zinfa made his way to a quiet spot near the edge of the forest. As he gazed at the stars twinkling overhead, he felt a sense of longing and determination swell within him. He had come to Earth to observe the humans, but in doing so, he had unearthed a part of himself that had long been dormant. The emotions he witnessed among the soldiers stirred something profound within him, a yearning for connection that transcended the boundaries of species. With the dawn's first light breaking through the trees, Zinthor returned to the camp, ready to witness the final rituals before the battle. He knew that he would not simply be a spectator anymore. He was part of this journey, bound to the soldiers who fought not only for their lives but for each other. As he stood among them, cloaked in his invisibility, he felt the power of unity, a force that would carry them through the trials ahead. The soldiers began to gather, and Zinthar watched as they performed one last ritual, a ceremony of solidarity known as the rallying cry. Standing in a circle, they joined hands, their voices rising in a chant that echoed through the trees. The words were foreign to Zinthar, yet he felt their energy pulsating in the air, a powerful testament to their resolve. As they called out for strength and protection, he sensed the essence of humanity, that unwavering spirit, their tenacity, and their unbreakable bond. As the chant reached its crescendo, Zinfar felt an overwhelming sense of purpose. He realized that this battle was not just about survival, it was a culmination of everything he had learned from these remarkable beings. The courage to face one's fears, the strength found in vulnerability, and the bonds forged through shared experiences. All of these lessons had shaped him, urging him to embrace the complexities of life. With the first rays of sunlight illuminating the camp, Zinthar prepared to bear witness to the unfolding conflict, ready to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead. The soldiers, his comrades in this journey, stood poised to face their fate, united by a strength that transcended the battlefield. As the dawn of battle approached, Zinthar knew that he was no longer merely an observer. He was a participant in a narrative that would redefine the very essence of existence, both for him and for the humans he had come to admire. Into the fray, the sun had barely risen when the soldiers began their final preparations for battle. Zinthar, hidden in the shadows of the trees, felt the electric anticipation crackling through the air. The atmosphere was thick with emotion, a blend of determination, anxiety, and camaraderie that enveloped the military base like a heavy fog. He had come to Earth as a detached observer, yet now he was intertwined with the fabric of this moment, caught in a whirlwind of feelings were both exhilarating and terrifying. As the soldiers geared up, Zinthar noted the ritualistic nature of their preparations. Each soldier meticulously checked their weapons and equipment, performing the same motions with a sense of reverence and focus. There was a cadence to their movements, an unspoken understanding of the gravity of the situation. Zinthar marveled at their ability to maintain composure amid the tension. It was a testament to their training and their unwavering commitment to one another. In the heart of the camp, the commanding officer gathered the troops for one final briefing. Zinthar slipped closer, drawn by the gravity of the moment. The officer stood tall, his presence commanding as he addressed the soldiers. Today, we face an enemy that seeks to undermine our way of life. But remember, we are more than just individuals. We are a unit. We fight together, we stand together, and we will triumph together. His words were met with a chorus of cheers, echoing through the base like a battle cry. Zinthar felt a shiver run down his spine as the soldiers' voices filled the air. Their enthusiasm was infectious, igniting a fire within him that he hadn't realized was dormant. He found himself reflecting on his own culture's rigid structure, where emotion was often dismissed as a sign of weakness. Here, the raw expression of determination and hope was a rallying force, a reminder of the strength that lay in unity. As the final preparations concluded, Zinthar followed the soldiers as they made their way to the transport vehicles. The convoy of armored trucks rumbled to life, the sound of engines roaring mingling with the chatter of the soldiers. Zinthar observed the way they moved together, the bond evident in their every action. There were gestures of encouragement, pats on the back, and shared glances that spoke volumes about their unyielding support for one another. The journey to the battlefield was marked by a charged silence. Soldiers sat in their seats, their expressions a mixture of determination and introspection. Zinthar noted how they occasionally exchanged stories or whispered reassurances, a strategy to distract themselves from the impending confrontation. It was a fragile balance of camaraderie and anxiety, one that spoke to the depth of their shared experiences. When they arrived at the staging area, Zinthar could see the landscape transform into a chaotic scene of preparation. The air was thick with the scent of earth and metal, and the distant sounds of artillery practice echoed across the hills. The soldiers disembarked from the trucks, moving with purpose as they set up their positions. Zinthar felt his heart race, a mix of fear and excitement coursing through him as he absorbed the urgency of the situation. As the soldiers began their final rituals, Zinthar watched intently. They gathered in small groups, forming circles where they could share last words of encouragement and solidarity. One soldier, a tall man with a strong build named Marcus, spoke passionately about the importance of loyalty and sacrifice. "We fight for each other, for our families, and the future we believe in," he proclaimed, his voice steady and resolute. "Whatever happens today, know that you are not alone. We will stand together until the end." His words ignited a fervor among the soldiers, and one by one, they shared their own thoughts and hopes. A young recruit named Elena, her eyes shining with determination, shared her dream of returning home to her family. "I fight for them, for the laughter we share, and the memories yet to be made," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. Zinthar could feel the weight of her sincerity, the rawness of her vulnerability that drew the group even closer together. Zinthar was overwhelmed by the beauty of their connection, the way they forged strength from their shared fears and hopes. This was not just a gathering of soldiers, it was a community bound by a shared purpose. In that moment, Zinfo understood that their fight was not solely against an external enemy. It was a battle for their identity, their values, and their future. As the last rays of sunlight began to fade, the soldiers lined up in formation, ready to move out. Zinfo positioned himself at a vantage point, prepared to witness the unfolding events. The tension in the air was palpable, a taut string waiting to snap. Zinfo felt a mixture of admiration and trepidation for these warriors who were about to face unimaginable challenges. The sound of horns blaring and engines roaring signaled the beginning of their march. Zinfo moved with them, cloaked in invisibility, as they advanced toward the battlefield. The landscape shifted from familiar terrain to the chaotic environment of war. Smoke billowed in the distance, and the sounds of conflict grew louder, a cacophony of artillery fire and distant screams that echoed through the valley. As they approached the front lines, Zinfo could feel the gravity of the moment weighing heavily upon him. He had observed many human rituals, but this was different. This was a crucible, a test of everything the soldiers had trained for. The chaos of war began to envelop him, and he realized that he was witnessing a pivotal moment in their lives, a moment that would forever change them. The soldiers took their positions, each one moving with practiced precision. Zinfo marveled at their discipline, the way they maintained their formation even as fear threatened to infiltrate their resolve. In the distance, the enemy forces emerged, a dark wave of figures that surged toward them. Zinfo's heart raced as he sensed the collective breath of the soldiers, the moment of silence before the storm. Then, without warning, the battlefield erupted. The soldiers charged forward, their battle cries echoing through the air as they met the enemy head-on. Zinfo felt an overwhelming rush of emotion as he watched the scene unfold. The courage, the fear, and the determination on display was breathtaking. The chaos of combat enveloped him, and he realized he was no longer just an observer. He was part of something much larger, a moment that transcended individual existence. As the battle raged on, Zinfo's focus sharpened. He observed the soldiers navigating the chaos with remarkable resilience, their training kicking in as they faced the onslaught. Each movement was calculated, every action driven by a fierce desire to protect one another. He watched as Marcus and Elena fought side by side, their bond evident in the way they covered each other, their unspoken communication guiding their every move. But amid the courage, there was also the harsh reality of war. Zinfo felt his heart ache as he witnessed the pain and loss. The sounds of gunfire and explosions pierced through the air, mingling with cries of anguish. He watched as comrades fell, their sacrifice echoing through the hearts of those who remained. The depth of emotion struck him like a physical blow. This was the cost of their fight, the weight of their shared responsibility. In that moment, Zinfo realized that the soldiers were not just fighting for victory. They were fighting to preserve the bonds that had formed among them. Their hearts were intertwined, each loss felt acutely by every member of the unit. Zinfo felt a surge of empathy wash over him, a connection that transcended species as he bore witness to the essence of humanity, resilience in the face of adversity, love in the midst of chaos. As the battle continued to unfold, Zinfo found himself standing at a crossroads within his own soul. He had come to observe, to analyze, but now he felt the pull to engage, to take a stand alongside these extraordinary beings. The emotions he had so carefully kept at bay began to swell within him, urging him to confront his own beliefs about duty, connection, and sacrifice. With newfound determination, Zinfo stepped forward, his cloaking device flickering as he let it dissolve. He revealed himself to the soldiers, feeling a sense of liberation as he joined their ranks. "I am here," he declared, his voice steady yet filled with emotion. "I fight with you." The soldiers turned, surprise flickering in their eyes, but then, as if understanding the depth of his commitment, they welcomed him into their fold. In that moment, Zinfo became more than an observer. He was part of their story, their struggle, and their triumphs. Together, they stood united against the chaos of war, a testament to the power of connection and the strength found in vulnerability. As the battle raged on around them, Zinfar knew that this journey would forever change him. He had come to Earth to study humanity, but what he found was far more profound, a truth that transcended species and cultures, a lesson in love, loss, and the enduring power of unity. Together, they would face the storm, their hearts intertwined in a dance of courage and resilience, ready to embrace whatever the future held. Forged in fire. The chaos of the battlefield rolled around Lieutenant Zinthar as he stood shoulder to shoulder with the soldiers he had come to admire. The air was thick with the acrid smell of smoke and the sounds of war, the thunderous booms of artillery, the sharp cracks of gunfire, and the distant cries of those fighting for their lives. For the first time, he felt the adrenaline coursing through his veins, a visceral connection to the very essence of humanity's struggle. With every passing moment, the soldiers moved as one cohesive unit, their training evident in their every action. Zinfo watched as they executed strategies with precision, covering each other as they advanced through the chaos. Marcus led a group forward, shouting commands that carried above the din. Flank left. Cover the rear. His voice was a rallying cry, igniting the fire within the hearts of those around him. Elena was beside Zinthar, her determination palpable as she took her position. "Stay close and follow my lead," she yelled, her eyes fierce with resolve. Zinthar felt a rush of admiration for her bravery, a human spirit shining brightly even amid the turmoil. As they moved together, Zinthar's senses heightened. He began to understand the true meaning of teamwork and the unspoken bonds that connected them all. In the thick of the battle, time seemed to stretch and compress, a surreal experience that blurred the line between reality and instinct. Zinthar's training as a scout kicked in. He utilized his observational skills to navigate the chaos, adapting to the fluid dynamics of combat. He could feel the weight of responsibility as he fought not only for survival, but for the lives of those around him. Each soldier's life was a thread in the tapestry of their shared existence, and Zinthar was determined to protect them. As the battle raged on, Zinthar was forced to confront the harsh reality of war. The enemy was relentless, pushing forward with fierce determination. Zinthar found himself in a close-quarters confrontation, facing an enemy combatant who charged at him with wild eyes. In that moment, the world narrowed down to the two of them, a clash of wills. Zinthar relied on his agility, evading the initial strike and responding with a swift maneuver that took the enemy by surprise. He felt the adrenaline spike as he used his skills to incapacitate the assailant, realizing with each movement that he was tapping into a primal part of himself, one he had never known existed. But the battlefield was unforgiving. As he turned back to assist his fellow soldiers, he heard a cry that pierced through the chaos. It was Marcus, who had been struck during the fray. Zinthar felt a jolt of fear grip him as he rushed toward his fallen comrade, navigating through the haze of smoke and debris. He found Marcus on the ground, clutching his shoulder where blood seeped through his uniform. The look in Marcus's eyes was one of shock, but also a fierce determination to stay in the fight. "Get up, Marcus. We need you," Elena shouted, kneeling beside him, her voice a blend of urgency and encouragement. Zinthar could see the pain etched across Marcus's face, but he also saw the fire of resolve. In that moment, Zinthar knew he had to do everything he could to help his newfound comrades. "Stay with us, Marcus. You're not alone," Zinthar said, kneeling beside him. Using the skills he had acquired from observing human medical practices, he quickly assessed the wound. "We need to get you patched up. Hold on." With Elena's help, Zinthar fashioned a makeshift bandage from the fabric of Marcus's uniform, applying pressure to stem the bleeding. As they worked, Zinthar could feel the weight of the battle pressing down on them. The noise of conflicts surrounded them, but within this small circle, there was a sense of focus and unity. Marcus groaned but nodded, determination flashing in his eyes. "I'm not done yet. I'll fight," he said, pushing himself up slightly. Zinthar admired his resilience, a reflection of the human spirit that he had come to respect. "We'll get you back on your feet. Just breathe," Zinthar encouraged, feeling the surge of emotion well up within him as he realized how deeply connected he had become to these soldiers. As the fight continued around them, Xinthar's resolve strengthened. The human ability to endure pain, to support one another in the face of adversity, filled him with a sense of purpose. The lessons he had learned in the weeks leading up to this moment crystallized in his mind. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the determination to push through it together. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the chaos began to subside. Xinthar helped Marcus to his feet, supporting him as they rejoined the others. The battle had taken its toll, but the soldiers fought valiantly, pushing back against the enemy with unwavering resolve. The tide began to turn, and Xinthar felt a swell of hope rising within him. As they regrouped, Xinthar took a moment to assess the battlefield. The air was filled with the cries of both victory and sorrow, a reminder of the cost of war. He watched as soldiers tended to the wounded, sharing words of comfort and encouragement. Xinthar was struck by the powerful rituals that emerge even in the darkest moments, how they honored their fallen comrades with silent tributes, how they leaned on each other for strength. In the midst of the chaos, Xinthar found himself reflecting on the nature of sacrifice. He understood now that each soldier carried not only their own burdens, but the weight of their comrades' lives. They fought for something greater than themselves, a truth that resonated deeply within him. The bonds they forged through shared experiences, the connections they nurtured amidst the turmoil, these were the elements that truly defined their humanity. As the battle raged on, Xinthar felt a profound shift within himself. He was no longer an outsider observing from the shadows. He was a part of this journey, entwined with the soldiers who had embraced him as one of their own. He knew that he would fight not just for victory, but for the legacy of those who had come before, those who had made the ultimate sacrifice for the greater good. In the heart of the battlefield, as the last remnants of the enemy were pushed back, Xinthar stood among the soldiers, their eyes filled with determination. They had emerged battered but unbroken, a testament to the strength of unity and the power of the human spirit. The echoes of their battle cries lingered in the air, a reminder of the bond they had formed through fire and adversity. As the dust began to settle and the sun dipped low in the sky, Xinthar took a deep breath, grounding himself in the moment. He knew that this was only the beginning, a turning point in his journey of understanding humanity. The battle had forged a connection that transcended the stars, and he was ready to embrace whatever lay ahead, alongside the brave souls he had come to call friends. With renewed determination, Xinthar resolved to continue fighting not only for these soldiers, but for the lessons they had taught him, the importance of connection, the strength found in vulnerability, and the enduring power of hope. Together, they would face the challenges that awaited them, ready to carve their own destiny in the annals of history.